What's up, man? I hope you are having a wonderful day. Right now, I'm about to walk you through what I did to beat my issues with binge eating and keep off 20 kilos. I'm also going to show you how I adapted that process to working over 80 hours a week and how I still continue to build muscle during that. But more importantly, how you can do the exact same. Now, just to give you some context, when I first tried to lose fat about 5 years ago, I went and did an extreme diet because I didn't know what I was doing. I went and cut out carbs and sugar, eating once or twice a day, and what it did was not just fuck with my physical and my mental health, but it kickstarted a lot of problems with binging and yo-yo dieting because I never learned how to keep the fat off and just handle all of it. And this point here was at my heaviest. I had stress binged my way up to over 200 pounds, and I was at a point where my friends and my family were telling me I needed to change something because it was disgusting. So I did, and I'd already been in the gym doing bodybuilding and educating myself for a couple years at this point, but I still had to adapt it to beating my problems with binging, losing the fat sustainably, and doing that all around work. And this is what I did. So there were two main reasons I struggled with binging: stress and cravings. Now with stress, because I was pretty much addicted to food before, I always turned to it to cope with stress. And during that photo on the left, I was coming up to exams I needed good grades on to secure my old job. So I was pretty stressed and binged a lot. So instead of trying to win with willpower, I put more effort into actually managing the stress and coping with it differently. Pretty much switching out binge eating for a different coping mechanism rather than going at it with straight willpower. And this is important because if you care about doing anything with your life, which I'm sure you do, you will probably be stressed at some point. So for me, I changed how I saw the gym so it could become a way I manage stress. And a lot of people do that already, and so did I. But now, what I did was, instead of just turning up and lifting weights, I'm logging lifts. I know what I want to try and do based on what I did last session. I want to beat my old performance, and it turned into a kind of game, which was very different to what I was doing before and helped me manage my stress much, much better. And this is great because, one, it helps you build more muscle, and two, when you hit the gym, say you're doing 12 sets, that's 12 opportunities you have to be better than the guy you were last time, and that's such a blessing. And you'll feel good having done that, which in turn obviously manages stress. But obviously, we aren't and don't really want to be living in the gym, so other coping mechanisms are also really important. And all I want you to think of these as is a positive distraction. Maybe you notice you are stressed and you're having a binge craving, so that signals you for a 30-minute walk. That's something that I do. I also build Lego sets and make sure I have time to spend with friends and family. Now, it might be different for you. My client Damien, for example, plays chess. William journals and meditates. Zach plays Dungeons and Dragons and plays his guitar. All you're doing is intentionally making time for your hobbies. So you're straight up happier, but don't feel the need to turn to food for dopamine and enjoyment. And equally, hobbies that you enjoy help you de-stress. Now, the second thing is cravings, because we also just have our favorite foods that we might struggle to keep in moderation because, like I was, you might be addicted to them. Now, that extreme diet left me with a crap perspective of food. I basically saw some stuff as good and some stuff as bad, which our brains are often wired that we want what we can't have, which for me led to some binges. But now I've learned that there's not much thing as good or bad food, and I've changed my perspective on it. And this is because there's not one food which is going to simultaneously cause you bad health or straight up just make you overweight. I want you to look at each food as just a tool, and all you need to do is be aware of how much you're having of each. And what I mean by tools is some foods are going to be dense in different nutrients, like protein to help you build muscle, or healthy fats to support your hormones, or loads of quick absorbing carbs to fuel your workout. Or it's some crisps or some chocolate alongside your meals, and this is a tool to help you enjoy your diet and stick to it better. And this is how I manage my cravings and how I want you to try and do it as well. I plan foods I like in my diet, but rather than having loads of off-plan meals, I use the foods I like alongside my meals. For example, having dark chocolate in my yogurt bowl with loads of fruit and obviously yogurt and oats. Or alongside my beef and rice with carrots and peppers, I also have some tortilla chips. And what this does is it keeps me full and satisfied. My meals have massive nutritional value, but they still satisfy my craving. And it's not to say you can never have meals revolving around your favorite foods. I still have pizza and ice cream and burgers from time to time and fit that into my calorie and macro plan. But what I will always do is pair those meals and foods with something high volume and satiating, which slows my digestion down. So I do feel full and satisfied, and I don't feel the need to go and get more, which can turn into a binge. So for example, instead of just having a pint of ice cream, have loads of fruit on the side. Instead of just having a burger, have some salad on the side, maybe with some healthy fats in. Have plenty of water alongside it as well, so it does keep you full. So that's how I kept my diet sustainable, but in terms of structuring my fat loss, this is what I did. Now, 10,000 steps is a baseline for activity, because when you're in a caloric deficit, you are taking in less energy, so you're going to move less subconsciously, which slices away quite a lot of the calories you normally burn in a day just from doing stuff like fidgeting. And that 10,000 steps makes sure that you're still going to be burning enough. Like I said, it's a baseline for that activity, and it's also just good for you. And like I said before, walking can also help you manage stress. I did a progressively aggressive deficit. Now, you probably know what a caloric deficit is already, but in case anyone doesn't, it means going below your maintenance calories, which is the same as the amount of calories your energy your body burns in a day. So your body pulls the energy it's missing from your diet from your fat stores, which leads to you losing fat. So what I want you to do is find your maintenance calories. You can just use a calorie calculator online to start with, and then from there, the bigger the deficit you go in, the more fat you lose. But it also means the less sustainable your diet's going to be, and the more difficult it can be to keep on building muscle. For perspective, a 500 calorie deficit will give you a pound of fat loss per week. I would count anything over 500 to be more aggressive, anything 500 and below to be relatively sustainable. Now, you can still build muscle in an aggressive deficit, you just need to make sure things are set up right. I've still gotten stronger in 1,000 and even bigger calorie deficits before. And I'm also a really big advocate for tracking your calories, because if you use it right, it can make your diet less restrictive and keep things more organized. Now, doing a progressively aggressive deficit isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. I wouldn't say it's what everyone should do, because it depends on your circumstances. It fit mine at the time, which is why I did it. Since then, I've done other small fat loss phases to get even leaner than I was already, and I've kept a constant deficit rather than the same approach I did before, because like I said, circumstances. The reason I did one before is, remember I said I had those exams to secure my job. I didn't want to jump into a crazy deficit straight away because of that. I started off at 300 or 400 calories below my maintenance, and then once that had all passed, I ended up at 1,000 calories below my maintenance at the end of the cut. Equally, big deficits don't suit everyone. I have some clients where big deficits aren't sustainable. For example, Dinesh here is in his 60s, and his maintenance calories weren't very high. So he stayed in a 400-500 calorie deficit because any bigger just wouldn't have been nice for him. And when I say about the aggressive thing not being a one-size-fits-all, there are some guys who start off more aggressive and it gets less aggressive as time goes on. And the reason that can work for a lot of people is because they might have the best mental adherence at the start, and that's also when people's maintenance calories are the highest. And some people just stick to a constant deficit throughout, and you adjust your calories as you go on to stay in the same deficit. Like I said, different people might take different approaches. It depends on circumstances. And when I say circumstances, I mean it's individual based. What you might do can vary from person to person based on what your life fits and what you want to do. Also, if you didn't know, your maintenance calories will change as you lose fat. Each kilo of fat you lose will be 15 to 30 calories off of your maintenance. And if your schedule allows it, you can always increase your steps rather than reducing your calories. So each 1,000 steps will be about 30 to 50 calories burned. Now, in terms of macros, around 0.8 grams per pound of protein of a healthy target body weight is good. What I mean by that is, say, when I was at 200 pounds and I had 45 pounds to lose, I didn't need 160 grams of protein. My target body weight was 165 pounds-ish. I'd been fine with 130 to 140 grams of protein. We all know that protein helps you build muscle, but it also keeps you full. It's the most satiating macronutrient. So if that's a big deal for you, increasing it a little bit above 0.8 grams per pound isn't a bad shout. In terms of fats, anywhere from 0.25 to 0.4 grams per pound is fine. I wouldn't go any lower than that or much higher. So fats support your hormones, so you want good quality fats to do that. Most of your fats should ideally be coming from monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fat. I'm not going to run through loads of sources in this video because that's a whole nother topic and it's not the purpose of this video. But after that, the rest of your calories should go to carbs. Carbs should make up most of your calories. They support your energy and your training, and having enough carbs and timing them well will be the needle mover for you building muscle. And keeping building it even when you're cutting. So if you go lower on that range for the fats, it means you have more space for carbs and your training could be better supported. But it also means, because you have a lower amount of fats, you need to make sure those fats are coming from good places. And the diet might feel a little bit more hardcore. It's not like it's some war though. Like, I eat like that personally. That's how my diet's structured and I still enjoy it. But if it's on the higher end, your diet's probably going to be a little bit more sustainable. Dinesh's, for example, was on the higher end. Then the final thing is making sure your meals are high volume. So each meal, if you have at least a serving or two of fruit and veg, they're going to be pretty high volume and you'll find it easier to hit your daily fiber. Also, you can just pick foods which are higher volume too, like potatoes instead of pasta, and this is going to help keep you full and also help you enjoy your meals more. And now training. So how much muscle you build is down to your training. If you make a better stimulus in the gym, you're going to grow more muscle. So we want to make the best stimulus possible. Now we do this through logging our weight and reps for each set in our sessions, then using that to keep track of progression and then knowing the weight and the reps you did last session going into your next session. Remember I said I turned the gym into a game of beating old performance? That's what this is. So you should be taking your sets close to or to failure. So that's 0 or 1 reps in reserve, which means how many reps you have left in the tank at the end of the set. And then treating your training, how I just said, will help you train closer to failure and up the intensity, which again leads to a better stimulus. So the idea is you go into sets knowing what you want to achieve. Being, for example, if I know I benched 100 kilos for 6 reps last week, this next session I know I want to go for 7, and I go into that set with that mentality. And what that does is it gives you this mentality of not missing and you just end up training harder. If you know bodybuilders like Jordan Peters and Dorian Yates, that's something I've learned from them. I really like their ideologies. Your programming is also super important. Now I'm not going to go super in depth into it right now because it's a whole other topic, but if you comment workout underneath any of my Instagram reels, I'll send you a guide on it. But another super important thing is your carb timing. So your muscles run off of carbs, and we want to make sure they're fueled so you can smash your sessions. I mean, make sure your muscles are fueled, not the carbs are fueled. Structuring your diet, how I said on the last slide, does a lot of the work because your total carb intake is obviously going to be solid. But you should still have 60 to 90 grams of quick absorbing carbs an hour or so before you train. That could be a sweet treat because having them pre-workout is a pretty good way of fitting them into your diet. And if you do that, just try and keep it relatively low fat because you don't want to slow down the digestion too much. Or what I do is I just have banana, rice cakes with some honey and some salt on top. And then I also have some quick absorbing carbs pre-workout, and obviously you should do the same. Like white rice in your post-workout meal, and the rest of the day prioritize complex carbs. Things like whole grains, which are also high in fiber to help you hit that target too. Or potatoes and sweet potatoes are more examples of some. These are going to help you get stable energy throughout the day, and they won't give you that 3 p.m. crash that a lot of people struggle with. Also, they taste decent and is going to keep you full as well. And now for probably the most important bit, how do you adapt all of that to working? Now for context, there was a point where I was balancing my full-time engineering job, part-time studying, and starting this coaching business, and I still managed to adapt. I promise you, you can fit things in if you structure it right and you do try. And here's how you can manage your 9 to 5, any other projects you have, your fitness, and still make time for yourself. Make life easier for yourself with nutrition. Pick 2 days in the week where you'll spend half an hour batching out most of your meals. Cooking up loads of protein sources, like chicken breast in one go, doing the same with your carb sources, and while it cooks, you could prep the overnight oats for the week, which you have for breakfast. The other thing is just choosing convenient meals, like choosing things which are easy to batch cook, but if you, for example, I have yogurt for breakfast instead of overnight oats, it's convenient because it takes 2 minutes to make, or a steak, for example, is also pretty quick to make. And obviously you don't need to eat the same thing every day. We want you to enjoy your diet and not be bored, but having a pretty similar structure day by day can make life easier too. It also means you have a pretty good idea of what you need to get from the shops, and you have a good plan of what you need to batch cook to. In terms of training, like I said, comment workout underneath any of my Instagram reels and I'll send you a guide on programming. That guide is specific to doing it around your 9 to 5 as well. But the whole idea is getting as much as possible for as little as possible, which you do with 3 to 5 sessions a week, being in the gym for 45 to 75 minutes at a time. Each session should be between 10 and 16 sets-ish, with between 1 and 4 for each muscle group. Get that guide because it will explain all of that in a bit more depth. And in terms of steps, if you work at an office, just park further away. Like if you walk 20 minutes to and from your desk, then take 2 or 3 15-minute walking breaks during the day, and I know my old company literally encouraged us to do stuff like that, by then adding whatever you do anyway during the day, you'll be at 10k steps-ish anyway. And you can even get a walking pad if and when you work from home. I have clients who do that and it is an absolute game changer. I'm going to get one for myself soon. But the absolute biggest tip I can give you is have a routine. If you know what you need to do and when, you remove decision fatigue and make life so much easier. And it also means you're going to have more time to yourself. Here's what you should do. Have 5 to 10 minutes each night to just prep for tomorrow. Double check your meals are sorted, pack your work bag, your gym bag, the clothes you're going to take to the gym, and this will help you stay on track. When it comes to your training, if you're training in the morning before work, put your alarm on the other side of the room. So that way, you force yourself to get out of bed, and realistically, once you've done that and you see your clothes and gym bag set out on the floor, you're not going to get back in bed, you're not going to skip the gym, you're going to go and hit a fantastic workout before you go to work. Now, if you go after work, which is what I did, take your gym stuff and your pre-workout meal to work. Obviously, leave your bags and gym clothes in the car, but have your pre-workout meal at the office right before you leave. Then go straight from work to the gym. What you've done is take away any decisions that could stop you from going to the gym. If you went home first and had nothing prepped, you are much more likely to skip, and it also saves time. If you finish work at 5 p.m. and get to the gym at 5:30 p.m., then get home at 6:30 p.m., you still have 4 or 5 hours to yourself. And the same thing goes with your meals. Have a routine with prep and the days you do it. If your meals are sorted, it now becomes more of an inconvenience to not have them. You've made life easier for your future self. I have found a routine as the biggest thing to help keep you on track because it lets everything else fall into place. It makes it easier to fit time for yourself and those coping mechanisms in, sleep better, spend time with family while staying on track with your fitness goals and performing at work. All these systems that I've just gone over with you, and it's not the exact same from person to person, but they do work. For example, routine is super important because you've got Zach, who's down 25 pounds in 15 weeks, works full time in an active warehouse job, and he still has time for himself to spend time with family, to play Dungeons and Dragons, like I said, and play guitar. He also said he's into creative writing. Or Yash, who's down 20 pounds in 3 months. He works in software engineering full time, he studies part time, and now he's also taken on boxing. My point is, everyone has a busy life, and routine helps you save time and help you not need to worry about what you're doing every day and just do it. Anyway, I hope you found this all useful and you also got some good takeaways. If you are looking for some more one-to-one support to beat the binging and lose the fat while still building muscle, you can get in touch with me on Instagram, or there is a link below to book a consult call with me. Either way, I hope you have an awesome